All right, everyone. We're doing something different tonight. We are doing Exit Stage Left in Des Moines because we have just visited the State House for Wolf-PAC. I'm your host, Alicia Trimble, and joining me today are Nick Murphy and Armando Cardenas, who are both members of Wolf-PAC, and we're going to start out our discussion a little bit today about talking about Wolf-PAC. You guys have both been involved for a very long time, so you want to go out and why don't you start and tell us what the organization is about?
Yep, I'll kick it off. My name is Nick Murphy. I am the Iowa State organizer for Wolf-PAC, one of many. And largely what Wolf-PAC is we're tired of the corruption in politics and waiting for either the Supreme Court or the President or Congress to do something about it. We want to go around that entire process. Our founding fathers basically created a loophole within the system. Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution says the states have every right to enact an amendment just as much as Congress does. The problem is that the states don't rarely do it because by that point, once you get enough popularity within the process, then Congress steps in and fills up the rest of the way. However, with this situation, because we're essentially taking all the campaign financing that they usually get away from them, I don't gonna see they're gonna be too keen on letting that happen. So what we've done is we've started creating resolutions. If you get enough resolutions passed in enough states, you can call for a convention that calls for a big convention to ratify the amendment. But in order to get to that process, you got to get 2/3 or 34 states passed. We've already passed it in 5 states, and we want Iowa to be one of those next states. So in order to do that, we have to get a resolution written up, assembled, and then introduced into a committee, from a committee into the chamber. This time around, our goal was to get into the Senate with SJR 8, Senate Joint Resolution, or excuse me, SJR 6, or try to get through HJR 10, I believe, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And we had some success. Some of the biggest oppositions we face is that you don't see a lot of Republican support. But with this new turnaround of Bloomberg and his just millions of dollars dumped into the campaign, we started for the first time to see, like, okay, well, what happened with some, liberal billionaire wants to step into the race, i.e. Bloomberg, and how do we stop that? Well, when you have all this corruption, it's easy to, just blend in, but if you get rid of the corruption and the smoke settles, now you just have this billionaire trying to push his way through. Well, you can undercut that, but you need to have publicly funded campaigns first. Mm-hmm. So one of the big things that I do is, like today, I was talking to a lot of our volunteers, is talking about not only how to speak to your legislator, but also how to just approach the whole situation. What are you going to say? How are you going to appeal to them? If they're your local legislator, that's a pretty easy, way to speak to them. But if they're not, then how do you get a hold of them? So, little things like just the decorum with the person you hand the slip to ask for the legislator is always very important, and we're not going to quit. We're going to keep at this until we get it through. So yeah, that's my pitch. I've been in Wolf-PAC for 5 years, and I think it was 2018. I either emailed or called all 150 legislators and got a response of some sort. I'm hoping, if not this year, next year, we definitely finally get it passed for Iowa. That'd be great.
Okay. And Armando, how long have you been involved in Wolf-PAC?
So I am the Iowa state leader for Wolf-PAC. I've been involved since 2012.
Yes.
And I remember the times when there was no training. Times we didn't have any information. We just went and saw what happened. But yeah, so Wolf-PAC, Nick is exactly right. Wolf-PAC is, all we are a politically action committee, an aggressive because we're wolves and we're a pack, and trying to get rid of all PACs. So no PACs, free and fair elections, 2 ways to get an amendment to the Constitution, as Nick said. One is to get 2/3 of Congress to do it, the other one is to get 2/3 of the states to do it, and then go into the states, because Congress is the issue, is why we're here in the first place. So we're trying to get to the states, and as we trying to get all these legislators to actually sign on board. It's a lot harder than it sounds, because a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats like money in politics. I don't understand why, because I think they win because of money in politics. I think the person with the best idea should win, but that's just me. And that's where we're at right now. So yes, we have SJR 6 in the Senate, we have HJR 10 in the House. Today we went, lobbied them, touched base, kind of felt them where they're at, thank the ones who supported us, try to convince the ones who didn't, get some feedback as to why, so we can provide them more information. And that's basically what we do. So if you want to be involved, that's the best way to do it, is to come with us or send an email, make a phone call, so we have an idea as far as where we're at. And I think for the most part, money and politics is a big conversation that people are having nowadays. When I first started out, way back in the day, nobody really talked about it a lot. It was hard for me to convince somebody to sign on board or be a sponsor or to say yes, I agree, because it was more about other issues, either local issues or other state issues that they were, social issues that they cared about. But I think people are realizing that money and politics is the root of everything. And if you want to get something done, or if you actually want to see something fixed, so that's exactly why I'm involved in it, because I care about so many other issues that I can't pick one. So this is the main one that I think will actually uproot everything else, and everything else will kind of fall into place as far as what I want to see done in this country, in the Senate or in the state. So
it's really the hardest part about everything is that everyone's got their own personal issue that is near and dear to them, and I want to see progress. I want to see our country really rise up. But so it's hard for us to step in and be like, no, money and politics is so much more important than your issue. When really you just have to appeal to their better nature and be like, okay, why isn't your issue improving?
Yeah.
And if you do research, like, why is education falling behind? Why is healthcare falling behind? Why are pharmaceutical drugs so expensive? Why aren't my roads getting fixed quicker? Why does my water suck?
Why are people dying from cancer and going broke? What
Yeah.
I'm saying? Stuff like that. Everything. If you can think of anything, if you look into it, if you care about something, I think this is the one issue. It actually goes all the way to the beginning of it. Otherwise, it can be anything, as Nick says. I cannot think of anything that doesn't affect it. It's harder to not think of something that doesn't affect it than it is. Does that make sense? So it is what it is. Like I said, right now we're just trying to push it in the House. We have all these states that are so close, and Iowa's so close. We're a lot further than we have been in the past years. It's just baby steps. It's a long process. It gets frustrating. We have other members that get told no.
Activism in a nutshell.
Yeah.
We're so close. It's so incremental. You get a little bit further,
steps.
and then once it passes, everyone's gonna be like, well, that was an obvious thing. That was gonna happen regardless. No, it wasn't.
No.
I was there
Yeah.
when everyone told us no.
No. And we're told no every day.
Even like the Democrats who first endorsed this resolution, even they were on the fence.
Yep.
And because you get told, in essence, lies or these scare tactics to gaslighting you into thinking that we can't go this route. Like, we're going to have a runaway convention where we're just going to completely rewrite the Constitution, which if you read the Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, it's a single item, and that's it. So like the idea of a runaway convention was one. What were the other ones that we faced originally?
That First Amendment rights, money is speech, that choosing delegates, who gets to choose delegates. All we're asking is to have a conversation. You guys decide, the legislators decide the main rules, but all we're saying is, hey, Murph and I want to be our voices heard too, not just billionaires and corporations. How about we get a voice in there, our voices heard and our vote count. That's all we're saying. Hear us out and make it fair. And maybe somebody like you have all these people trying to buy elections because they have so much money and unlimited resources, and then people who have good messages and good policy can't be heard because they run out of money or whatever the case may be. So that's what we're doing. We're doing it because we care about all these things. Whatever the spectrum you're at, right or left, middle, I think this is the one issue that most people should care about. Because even if I was talking to a sheriff, state trooper at the Capitol, just because he looked super young, and I wanted to make sure how he got involved in everything. So I asked him, kind of slipped in how he votes, and he says he lives in a small town, so he's kind of conservative minded. And I basically told him, it doesn't matter who you vote. It doesn't matter if you have conservative views or progressive views, whatever. But I think maybe you should vote for people who don't take money from corporations or are corrupt. Doesn't make sense. It's like, well, it makes kind of sense. Maybe you should just look them up and see who they take money from and then vote for that person. Whatever your issues may be, I think if you want somebody who's honest instead of corrupt.
Because at the end of the day, if you have a legislator who was publicly funded and they are truly wanting to just improve their community, like if anything, like we don't have to agree on I disagree on things with everyone. I don't agree 100% with anybody. As long as at the end of the day, this person is going to represent the community that he's legislating over, that's way more important than where he stands on any one particular issue. If he's going to represent the people, and he knows that in order to get that vote next time around, he's actually got to vote in line with his people. So
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're doing. And this is a cross-partisan issue, as both Nick and Armando both of you were saying that. I think both of you did say that. But the important thing to remember is no one likes dark money, and by an overwhelming percentage of the American public, no one wants to see corporations controlling our representatives in the U.S. House and Senate. And this resolution, which would lead to a constitutional amendment, we hope, or it would lead to one way or another, either through the states calling the convention, or what would probably happen is the U.S. House and Senate would feel enough pressure, they themselves would call one when we got close enough. That way that our politicians aren't bought and sold. So Armando, do you mind if I ask you, being a minority in Iowa, which is over 90% white, have you ever faced that from law enforcement?
I can tell you a story. I don't lose my temper that much.
you can't.
But I have lost my temper. And I'll tell you a story. I used to live in a town. I'm not even going to say where. But I was coming from work, and I had dress clothes on. And at the time, I had an old car. It was a 98 Oldsmobile, because I was fixing it up, and I was trying to resell it. So, needless to say, the roof leaked, and I would put baking soda on the back so you can soak up the water. I had tools and everything in the back. Anyways, I was coming home. I lived like a block and a half from work. I was coming home, across the railroad station, the tracks, and I get the lights turned on. I'm like, oh, okay, great. I have all the paper order or whatever. Maybe I forgot a signal, but I did because I didn't turn. Like, here we go. So he comes out, knocks on my window, asks my license and registration, and I asked him why he pulled me over. He basically said I fit the description. When I asked for the description of the person he looked for, he wouldn't tell me. So then I got mad. I said, so you're just because I look a certain way? And when I said that, he's like, instead of answering my questions, he kept asking what's in the back of the car, what's that stuff on the back of the seat, did I steal my car because of the tools? All that, I got annoyed, and I lost my temper, and I said, yes. Why would I steal a 98 Oldsmobile? Of course.
You're the worst thief ever.
So then he pulled me out of the car forcefully, put his elbow and knee in the back of my neck, and I saw white. Like, you know when some people say they black out with anger? Mine was blinding white. And I basically told the guy, when he was smashing my head against the sidewalk and my cheek and my lip started bleeding, that if he wasn't in uniform, that him and I would be at it right now. And he kept telling me to calm down and stop resisting arrest, and I wasn't resisting. He handcuffed me, put me in the back of the car. I asked for a supervisor. Supervisor came. Supervisor talked to me and asked me why was I resisting arrest. I said I wasn't resisting arrest. You can look at the camera if you want. And I said he told me that I fit the description. I asked for a description of what he was looking for, and the supervisor said, "What description did he tell you?" I said, "That's why I'm here." I asked what type of description that I fit, and he said, "Well, let me talk to the guy." And he came back and he said, "Oh, it was just the car." I go, "Let me see it. Let me see this warrant or this description you're talking about." He wouldn't show it to me, so he let me go. But when I left, I told the guy that was arresting me, I said, "Next time you should do your job better." And if it was, again, I should have said it, but I said if he wasn't in uniform, him and I would be going at it. And he told me, "Is that a threat?" And I said, "Yes, for your job, because you're not gonna have a job next week." I called my brother, who's a sheriff at the time. He called the supervisor of that town. The sheriff, the manager, or the chief called me and apologized because he didn't want me to file charges, I thought. So I said, "I won't file any charges. I won't do anything if that guy that arrested me comes to my house and apologizes to my face, or if he gets fired." So the next day I came home from work. I saw him pull the lights on me and trying to pull me over. I ignored it, and I drove home slowly. I parked, and he came, and I got out of the car. He's like, "You want to go back in your car?" I go, "No, I'm good." And he's like, "I just came." I was like, "What's up?" And he's like, "I just came here to apologize for the mistake that I made." He's like, "No, you should apologize for the way you treated me." A mistake. People make mistakes every day. That's all good if it was a mistake. If you would have pulled me over and said, "Oh, my bad. I thought you offended somebody else," I would have been nice. You're doing your job. It's all good. But you should apologize for lying and shoving my face into the ground because I questioned your authority and you started flexing on me. So anyways, he apologized. All that stuff got sorted out. But that's just one of my stories. I have other people's friends who were embarrassed in front of their wives. Who I got pulled over in high school for curfew issues. When I had my wife at the time I was dating, but it was 2 white girls in the car and there was a brown boy driving, so I was fitting the curfew issues. So it's like racism, like that, little things like that. It's just like a Wednesday to me. You know what I mean? It's just like, but when it comes to forcefully doing something like that, of course I don't like cops that much. My brother's a cop, and I can say most of them are good, but there's just a few apples that make everybody look bad. So these guys who get frisked and stopped and told that they're this and that, and you don't think cops sometimes drop the F-bomb on them, and sometimes they don't even identify themselves. They just grab them and go. It's not surprising that the minority community is either afraid of cops or don't trust cops. It's super simple.
I mean, so I don't know if you know this, Alicia, but I actually am like half Hispanic. When I was younger, I had a darker complexion, and I mean, I know Armando's gotten it, but like at 6 years old, like my mom's giving me this talk. She's like, "Hey, especially in the summertime, just be careful." And like it was a weird. I'm like I'd never had any conversation like this. I'd never been in trouble. My mom's like, "You ever see a cop? Just do whatever he says. Don't say anything. Keep your mouth shut. P's and Q's. Everything, every step of the way." And I'm like, "Why?" I go, "Just please do this." I go, "Because you are Hispanic, you're gonna get this treatment, especially like when you're with your other cousins who look, are full Hispanic, because I'm like, my dad's white, obviously." So, yeah, it's again, I've been very, very lucky that I've been blessed that I haven't had to worry about this. But no, I've seen like cousins all the time that have to go through this stuff, and it's.
All right, so we had a change out here. Adam Vaught is joining us. Nick had to leave. He is also a volunteer with Wolf-PAC. All right, the last issue I wanted to get to today was the Trump administration is exploiting a technical loophole at the border with children who have entered as minors without a parent. These children are placed in detention and they have to see a therapist. It's mandatory. This should be a very good thing. No child coming over the border hasn't been traumatized in some form or another. However, unbeknownst to the therapist at the time, the notes from these meetings with these children were turned over to ICE officials, who then turned around and used them in their deportation hearings. Now, it may seem weird that the therapist would turn these notes over in the first place, but it didn't seem weird to the therapist because they may not be the next person to see the child, so then they were just thought the notes were going in the child's folder for the next therapist to use. And that's what should be happening here. But instead, people who have been very honest with their therapists are finding themselves being accused of having gang ties and other things.
Go over the one specific one. That way people have. So first of all, you got to keep in mind this is just one person, one kid. All the shit that he's been through. Ridiculous.
And this kid entered at 17. This was in the Washington Post. His name was Kevin Uceda. Is that how you say it? Uceda? And he met with a therapist, as was required by law, and he really opened up to the therapist. He said he felt a lot lighter after talking to her and a lot better. But he revealed that he had been beaten by his grandmother, cut with a machete and other things. And when his grandmother died, MS-13 took over his house and forced him kind of to become the errand boy. He delivered drugs for them. He acted as a lookout for them. And when he was 17, they said, "We need you to kill this individual." He and his sister, who I believe was 19 at the time, fled at that point because he wasn't going to kill anyone. This is something the child, so you would think, be rewarded for. And came to the United States, where they were put in detention. His sister, who was legally an adult, was then deported already. And when his hearing came up, the the ICE officials, attorneys, used the fact that he had been in this situation with MS-13 to say that he had gang affiliations and that he should be deported because of that. I also heard a report where a child said that he told staff that he was suicidal because he'd been in detention for like over a year, I believe.
Yeah, a couple
and
years.
they tried to get him deported because they said he was a danger to himself. So you can see how this is working here. Now, the reason these children are turned over to the Office of Refugee Resettlement, and the reason those notes can be used the way they are is because in the eyes of the law, the Office of Refugee Resettlement is the parent. So if Armando is 17 and I have a therapy session with him, it's legal for me to turn over the notes to his parents, and his parents actually can do whatever they want with the notes. Most parents don't do things like that, so it's usually not an issue.
And this kid was 17.
This kid was 17. Yep. Oh, no problem. So,
Yeah, so just
Yeah.
put yourself in this kid's shoes. You go through hell to get to the place that you're at now.
and he was from Honduras. It's not.
Yeah.
He had a long trek.
So then you come here, you're put in the cage, and then you don't know anybody. You're scared, and you're fed whatever you're fed, gruel, whatever, and then you're finally told we're gonna give you some therapy in order for you to get better. And then they try to charm you so they can trust that person. You talk to them, you give them your biggest fears, and when you went through, and then it's used against you to get kicked the hell out. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how, as Nick said earlier, joking around, saying about that's how you create a choker. You don't think that this kid is gonna have number one, trust issues, abandonment issues, anger, depression, rage. Mm-hmm. What do you expect? But they do it on purpose, in my opinion, in order for them. First of all, it's fascism 101. They do it on purpose so they can deter people from coming here. So when they see this kid from 17 from Honduras, and then they read about him, somebody who's thinking about coming, they'll say, "Well, I don't want to go through that crap. You know, I'm going to get through with a ringer. Yeah, I might as well just stay." And again, that's Stephen Miller's number one goal, to deter people.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, this kid who becomes an adult, may go back home or may actually be released into society. And you think he's going to be well? No. He's going to get in trouble, and he's going to create. First of all, he has no skills because you didn't teach him anything when he was detained. He doesn't know any English, and all he knows is anger and depression. So of course he's going to do something bad.
So the news should have been better for Kevin in this case because the judge didn't buy the attorney's story and deemed him a victim of human trafficking. So did he get released like he should have been under the law? No. He, after this meeting with the therapist, or after he found out, after how the notes were used from the one therapy meeting, when he met with therapists in the future, he would only talk about his current feelings, so he wouldn't get in more trouble. However, he apparently told a therapist one day that he was very angry with the kid and wanted to hit the kid, but didn't do that. He walked away and cooled down. And so ICE is using this as a reason to detain him, saying that he is a danger if he is released. Which, this I think goes, I'm willing to bet this detention facility is for profit.
Oh, of course it is.
Because that's like the huge, there's no reason for this, he's 19 now, he's an adult now, but there's no reason for this individual to be in jail anymore. Or be detained anymore. There never really was in the first place. But now he's being held for, I'll admit it, I've wanted to hit people a lot of times, but I've never done it. I've walked away and cooled down because that's what you're supposed to do. But in his case, he's being detained for doing the right thing. We all get angry.
Yeah.
The goal is not to hit somebody.
Yeah, he counted to 10 like he was told.
I mean, like, I myself, I'm teaching kids that are 17 years old, and the reason why they come to the school I teach at is because they did not make these great decisions this kid did.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh man, he's doing great. He's way above the maturity level of a lot of the kids I see here that are American. And yet we're calling him a danger. I want these ICE people to come to my school and I'll be like, no, this is what a dangerous kid is. This kid is perfect.
Yeah, this kid was told to murder somebody, didn't do it, defied MS-13 walked through how many countries?
This is just one kid.
This is one kid.
There's a bunch of them. Probably
Yeah, there's thousands of kids who have done this, and got all the way to a place where he might have been safer, and then has been in this horrible environment where he has to be frustrated and angry all the time, and didn't hit somebody.
And he's a teenager.
He's a teenager.
Yes. That's when everything goes wrong for you.
Yeah.
Or everything, you're growing up and you're emotionally, going through some emotional changes. So I don't know how he has not killed anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's too. And if any of these kids get in fights, then they're probably just held in detention longer, but it's making money for these for-profit detention centers. So it's just it's a vicious cycle, and children don't belong in prisons. The therapist apparently in this case found out what happened and resigned in protest. There have been other therapists who have apparently resigned, but therapists who are staying have told the Post and other papers that they are basically cooking the books. They're keeping two versions of their notes. One they give to ICE, the other they keep. So they have a record of their meeting with the child. And they're also doing things like hiding drawings that children make. Oftentimes when children are traumatized, it's easier for them to draw it out than talk about it. And they will hide these drawings and take them out of the meeting. So a lot of these drawings are gory and bloody, and some of these children have seen dismembered bodies, and so the therapists are probably sneaking them out in their clothes, is my guess, or with their books.
I can't imagine
notepads.
the PTSD that they're gonna have.
Yeah, no, and they're not getting treated for it, and all we're doing is compounding their PTSD, putting them in another dangerous situation.
I read where was it that during the Holocaust, when the Allied forces were closing in, they made some of the prisoners burn some of the records of people that were held, and pictures and stuff that people were held in these camps in order for them not to be discovered. It's the same thing. How is that different?
Yeah.
The only difference is maybe they're not putting them in gas chambers yet.
Yeah.
That's the only difference.
Yeah.
And also they don't have any. Do they get fresh air, or are just stuck in the cages all day?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know if I've seen any pictures of child detention centers. I don't know if we've been allowed in them, but the adult ones are pretty awful. I mean, people are sleeping on concrete, inhumane. It would not be legal to keep animals in some of the same conditions we're keeping people.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to generalize it as white people, but I'll say whatever. The people in America get so upset when Michael Vick was drowning dogs, which they should be.
Yeah.
Because he was drowning dogs, gassing them, electrifying them because they weren't good fighters. And then they got upset when they discovered these animals that were living in tiny, tiny cages. But those are just animals. Now switch it around and put as babies and kids put them in cages. It's the same thing. Except the only difference is they can defend themselves instead of.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How are you not outraged the same way as for animals as you are for innocent teenagers and people who are trying to escape something bad? Am I saying all of them are perfect human beings? Probably not. But that's what the judges are for them to, and also therapists, for them to discover who's a good one. How about people aren't talking how much it costs to hold these people in these places, how much it costs for the ICE to appeal when they get, for example, this kid was trying to leave and he was cleared to leave, and then ICE says no, we want to keep him because he's endangered himself or he's endangered other people. They file these petitions. You got to hire lawyers, you got to hire associates, you got to hire all these paperwork for you to keep that person in lockdown instead of just getting them a social worker and monitoring them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It costs more to keep them where they're at.
Oh yeah, absolutely. All right. That's what you got? Anything else you want to add? All right. So this has been a really long episode, guys. So I think we should probably wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for watching Exit Stage Left, and thank you to Armando, Nick, who was here earlier, and Adam for joining me today. John obviously couldn't be here; he had other obligations. But thank you, everyone. Please like and share if you enjoyed the video. Ring the notification or hit the notification bell if you want notification. Yeah, hit the bell if you want notifications. I think that's what I'm trying to say. And everyone, remember to exit stage left. Thank you very much.